All right, we are on number 4. Class has just started, final semester before I finish my bachelor's, so that's pretty exciting. Um, Hopefully, we're gonna keep up with it. I mean, I've got to read for school, and I'm counting those books toward the podcast, but you never know. So, number 4 is a modernist novel, James Joyce, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, published December 29th, 1916. And sorry, I accidentally hit the space bar, causing the recording to stop. So, like I said, published December 29th, 1916. Is it his greatest work? No. That's obviously Ulysses. But nonetheless, is this still an important piece of modernist literature and literature as a whole? Absolutely, yes. Um, my rating, 4.3, margin of error, zero point 0.1 of course. That's always so funny to me. I don't know why. I think it's because one of my friends pointed out. It's like, why do you have a margin of error? It's like, I don't know. I just do. Who knows? Maybe I was feeling like a little down that day or something. I don't know. Um, so if people don't know, James Joyce is considered probably the greatest modernist author, maybe one of the greatest authors to have ever existed, I guess. Um, and A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man is exactly that. It is. Oh, okay. All right. We'll just get into it. So, little bit of a background. This story follows Stephen Daedalus. I hope that's how you pronounce his name. And it follows his life as a young man through through religious school when he's a child, his family's financial situations, the Irish culture and society, and how like his classmates are trying to revive it, and how his family bickers about the two sides. It also follows his journey through religion as a whole, going through many different schools and learning many different things as well about religion and philosophy as well. And then it goes into a little bit of heartbreak. I get maybe not even heartbreak. It's like it's not obsession, but he's a growing boy. He's got hormones. How about that? So with modernist literature, most of the time, thoughts like the writing in this is very scattered, because that's how we think. We don't think in coherent sentences. That's not what we do. And modernism really tried to get that on paper. Really tried to make that known and seen in novels. So his thoughts, Stephen's thoughts, flow and pass over beautifully, despite them being very fractured, and it'll just cut off at times, and it'll start again, and you'll have no idea how long it's been until someone starts talking, and you'll be like, oh, I'm pretty sure this is like a time skip of like maybe a few days, or it might be a few years, who knows. But nonetheless, Joyce does an excellent job of of translating his thoughts onto paper and making them so real, making them so real, something that you just don't, or that people didn't really see back then. It is so. I talked about how it is a journey through both religion and the Irish culture, both of which were imposed on Stephen and Joyce as a whole. And it is his journey of finding himself, despite everyone around him being like, no, you should follow these things. And he's like, why? Why can't I be my own person? Why can't I follow what I want to do, despite me being Irish, despite me being Catholic? Mm, mm. You're definitely going to need Spark Notes for this after every chapter, for sure, after every section as well. Just because... Oh, okay, we're good. just because, like I said, it's despite him being one of the greatest modernist authors, modernism is very hard to read. If one, you don't know how to read it, and two, if you're unexperienced in the field as well. So, a little bit more on religion. He has this little break, little segment of his life, where, spoiler, he goes down the path of righteousness, like no longer, and he's got hormones and he's doing stuff, and then this week happens where they're for their patron saint of the university, and one of the sermons of one of the talks discusses hell and all of its stunningly horrifying descriptions of it. It is one of my friends called it like the most visceral description of hell he's ever seen, and it's true. It is terrifying. Like even if you aren't religious, you'll be reading this and you'll be like, damn, like Joyce nailed this on the head perfectly. Like this might just convert me. you know. So there's that, and then once he hears that, he's like, holy crap, okay, I've got to change myself. But then, like he is an artiste. He's a writer, he's a poet, he's a thinker. So he doesn't, even though he tries to mold himself to be like a student of God, it doesn't really work. And so we see that even though it is so fragmented, even though we don't, there's no like one continuous thought. It jumps around, like it stays in place for maybe like 10-20 pages, and then boom, cut, and then we're like a few weeks in the future or something like that. But it's really cool because even though that happens, we still get to see him grow and progress in his own philosophical thinking as well. It's really it's quite fantastic. And obviously Joyce meant for this to be fractured. It's not like he's not like a bad writer or anything. But if you take the time to really learn and really understand everything that Joyce is talking about in this novel, especially in his other ones like Dubliners, Finnegan's Wake, Ulysses, there's no greater joy than completely understanding one of the author's intentions in modernism, if that is your thing. Of course, I myself am not quite the Joyce fan, or what's that one? Not fan. Anyways, I am much more of a Franz Kafka enthusiast. Right here, The Complete Stories of Franz Kafka, not including his novels. Unfortunately, these are just many of his short stories. Will I ever do the trial for a podcast? Yeah, probably. It might take me a little bit though, because I'll really want to understand it, because I'll want to be doing that for grad school and stuff. But definitely a short stories as well. But I digress. So two things that I just didn't exactly like with the novel was like towards the end and like sometimes in the middle, when many of the boys, many of Stephen's friends are talking, and they're all in a big group, whether that's McCann, Davin, Clancy, Lynch. It gets really confusing. It gets really confusing really fast. And you really do just have to, because you don't know, like, yes, Joyce will say like, oh, this question was posed to Stephen, but that's about it. And so you really are just like following this conversation, and you're like, okay, I think I have an idea of what they're talking about, but do I know exactly who that's directed to and what the end goal is. No, not really. And I guess that's really what conversations are. And once again, he just nailed that right on the head with how it is. You don't plan a conversation unless you're in a debate, especially for university boys just chilling outside a library or like playing fucking hacky sack or whatever, it just flows. And then the second part is this unnamed girl that Stephen like fawns over or like torments himself over. We don't know the whole time that it's Emma. We don't know whether because he's met a lot of women and they all like in his mind they're all like described differently, but you don't know if that's just like Emma in like different clothes or something else. I don't know. I think it's Emma the whole time, and from what Sparks Notes tells me, I'm pretty sure it's Emma the whole time. But Joyce is no longer with us, so who knows? Okay, well, I do believe that makes number 4. We are ahead of schedule, thankfully. I'm really trying to get ahead of schedule, especially because school has started, and I may not have as much time to be reading 2 to 3 books at a time anymore. But once again, I'm still working on the Iliad, so look out for that within the next week and a half, 2 weeks-ish. And then that'll lead into another book. And then I'm thinking we're going to do a Neil Gaiman book next, because I have a few on my bookshelf. He's one of my favorite authors. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you later.